turning back.
That probably will be on the podcast.
They will. Welcome back.
We're back.
back.
Red button, right?
Yeah, we're good. We're
Red
good to go.
button, Ready to go, record.
We are recording. I know it's been an interesting year. Obviously, we say that every year.
Yeah. We were just talking about our weeks.
Yeah.
We had some crazy stuff. You had a silent retreat.
I went on a silent retreat with so my therapist and somebody he's known for a long time who's gone to several South American countries has kind of fallen into this shaman. He's a self-built shaman.
Okay.
I always see a white dude with red hair and I think shaman and I'm like, yeah, right. Okay.
Sure you are, buddy.
Yeah, sure you are. Yeah. and I don't mean to be rude. I'm skeptical. I mean, I think a lot of that has to do with my religious background growing up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like anybody can slap on a title. And right. the more, kind of fantastic, your works are, the more I kind of get a little, but it was cool to sit in silence for 48 hours or however long we were. It was from basically Friday, 5 p.m. to Saturday, 5 p.m.
Oh, wow. No
contact with the outside world out in the West Desert.
It was good?
It was good.
How many people?
It was a small group. I think it was 8 of us total.
And you drove your Bronco and slept in the Bronco?
Drove the Bronco, slept in the Bronco. They did have like cool little tent sites with the chair set up, and I'm kind of regretting I didn't do that. I just pulled the old C card and was like, I don't know that my body will do good on an air mattress.
Yeah.
Not that it does great in the rooftop tent, but
sure.
It's slightly more comfortable.
And then they did classes. What did they do?
Yeah, so they led us through his little routine. There was like a portion of breath work.
Okay.
It was, I don't know, I fell asleep during the breath work. So
Good.
I always judge my breath work by like how I feel after.
Yeah.
Usually it's pretty energizing.
This time you were tired.
This time I was tired and I just kind of
zonked out.
And that's okay. I think it was another session. I think I may have been more or less a novelty there, right? Like before we went silent at 5, we had already been silent on our phones for since 2:00. We already started our fast since 2:00, but then we started silent. Like we did introductions. I was kind of able to tell my story.
Oh, cool.
There's some younger guys there.
Oh, that's cool.
And just kind of share.
And everybody just kind of like just one 24-hour session of no electronics. And
no electronics.
Just kind of.
Yeah, inside the tent, there were 10 cards, like questions for journaling. So wrote a lot in my journal. Got up early for sunrise. Did sunrise around the fire.
No ayahuasca?
No, the guy that the shaman says he's used ayahuasca and mushrooms in his ceremonies.
Oh, really?
He just, because my therapist is trying this out, he picked a select group of, I think his folks.
Yeah. The people he could really trust on.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. Cause I didn't hear from you at all on Friday.
I know. I felt bad.
Men's group.
I think I was just realizing I spaced men's group on Friday morning.
Yeah.
I had such a shitty, I've fallen into really bad habits. So when you sent the topic for today, I was like, that is a good one to talk about because I am really struggling. Yeah. I'm really, really struggling with some things from my past that are just
showing up. Yeah. I was thinking about it today. Like I have, every once in a while, your thought process goes into where like some of your traits come from is what I was thinking about. Like some of my traits come from? Some of the things that I'm happy about, some of the things that I don't like, the good, the bad, the indifferent type things, but where do they come from? My boys and I were talking about just how, your genetic line and your genetic code, you can't get away from it sometimes, right? And it's there sometimes, turmoil right now in our country is insane. It's like crazy. It almost seems like California is a different country.
Dude, what's happening in California? I was just saying, my grandparents left the last time the Koreans got on the roof.
Yeah.
And they're on the roof again.
I know.
It's like
insane.
97.
It makes me so sad. Like, makes me like think to myself, like, gosh, how lucky I am I live in this bubble.
Right.
You know, I mean, like, I can imagine driving down the road and seeing what they're seeing. It almost looks fake.
It really does. Like throwing rocks at cars.
Throwing rocks and stuff. And like, you see the police cars just sitting there and they're broken. And it's like, man, what is going on there? And I think that sometimes that kind of stuff like triggers my emotional state of like, oh, how did you get to a point where you think that that's like okay to do? You know, like I get it, man. Like protest, I get it. Like our country is one where you're allowed to protest, where like things happen and you're like, I don't like what's happening, right? But to like go crazy like that to me is like, what in the world?
Destruction of property never makes sense to me.
Yeah.
To adult Tyler, to young Tyler, like to young immature Tyler, the destruction of property seemed like a perfectly viable option.
Yeah.
Right? I'm just screwing over these big multi-million-dollar corporations.
Yeah, screw them.
Screw them. They have insurance. They have the money.
Yeah, they'll be able to be.
They'll be fine.
Yeah,
and for the most part, they were, right? Like, so I guess I see it. I think as an adult, I'm like, okay, mostly I enjoy my freedoms, and I don't think I'd do good in jail.
Yeah.
I got a real kissable face, I think.
Come here, yeah. I think my size does not bode well for me.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to be somebody, hey, come sit on my lap kind of guy.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm not going to jail. Buddy.
Yeah.
You know, when I was, when we had after men's group, I ended up going down to Misty's dad's on Saturday. Friday's men's group, and then Saturday, you know, I've got one day off, and I ended up going and really doing something really cool with Professor, which was teaching the security, how to do security, like a security detail, like self-defense almost. It was wild.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh. I told him, I'm like, what a crazy thing to include me into that thing, because it's self-defense on another level, right? So you know, it was so cool. The little nuances of that kind of self-defense and how you're as a security detail, how you control things, you know? And I was like, yeah, what a cool thing to do.
What was the thing that surprised you most about, like, maybe the change in tactic?
Everything was the same. It's line of leverage, T position, but it was like, why? And if I walk up to a person and I grab them, as opposed to like a woman walks up and gently puts their hand on their elbow, same concept, but your spider senses are probably going to be a little bit less active if it's this nice lady coming up, but she's doing the same thing.
Right.
She's actually gaining line of leverage by grabbing your elbow and pushing you. And now when you try to react, there's something, you go to T position. And I was like, whoa, this is amazing. Plus all of the weapon stuff and anything anything else on top of that, there was more. There was more to it. There's some cool techniques, and I was so lucky to be a part of that. And then, you know, Misty and I went to the lake, and then I kind of got a little ahead of myself. But then Sunday I went down to see her dad. She had gone down there. Her dad had surgery, and gosh, he's such an important part of my life.
Yeah,
just to see him on the bed, I was like, man, a little emotional, because I don't like seeing him like that. And we were talking. He was telling me some funny shit. And just that idea of being helpless as a man. He was telling me, he's like, you know, I don't know if you know this, but toilets are not built for men. They're built for women to sit down, not men to sit down. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, like I can't sit down. Like it's too low.
Oh,
it's too low. And his back, you know, he had back surgeries. It's too low. He's like, I feel like I can't go. And I'm like, oh, I never even thought about it.
I was going to say, has he ever tried to take a shit standing up?
Well,
I get the low. I didn't realize that there was a difference until I actually moved to Utah, and whoever owned our house must have been real big, because the toilet's like, my feet were dangling. I was like, you got the extra large toilet.
That's the way to go. Yeah. He had to buy like this other thing to help him to help it so that when he could sit comfortably.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about like how helpless you would feel, you would feel in those instances as you get older, and he was telling me something funny. He was like a little lucid and a little talkative and sleepy, and at the same time a little drugged up, and he was just making me laugh. And then it brought a lot of like ideas to me of like my childhood and like how my childhood shaped who I am today, right? And then there's these traits that every once in a while show themselves, and I'm like, man, where did that come from? I don't apologize well. I don't apologize well. I fight. I'll fight. And I fight hard if I need to fight. Like I'm like fighting hard if I need to fight, And so I started to like think a little bit about those ideas. I listened to a Columbine podcast. I don't even know why it just came up on my feed. And oh my gosh, talk about
some wackadoos. Did they read his manifesto?
They didn't read his manifesto. It was more of like
summarizer.
Some of the kids that had survived.
Some
Some of the people that had survived. And oh my gosh, talk about a little emotional. I was trying to think. It was 97 when that happened.
99. 98.
I think it was 97. You should Google that. That's a good thing to Google.
Because I was a junior in high school. It would have been 98, 99.
99, you think?
I thought so.
Maybe it was.
I thought 99. It was April 20th, 1999.
And I thought it was April 20th, 1997. But
either way.
Let's Google it. I was trying to put myself back in that position of where I was at. 98, April 20th of 98, I was in the military. I thought about that today. I was at basic training. So it wouldn't have been, you're right. It's either 97 or 99. I'm not sure which one it is.
Yeah.
But I would try to put myself there.
Yeah.
I try to put myself in that position of what those kids went through. And
as the reactive kids to, It's interesting because Jordan Peterson has, you can hear him talk about the actual Dylan and what is the other kid's name?
Dylan and
whatever. They're relatively unimportant at this point. We don't. Yeah.
It's funny how people talk. When people talk, they're like, yeah, these guys don't even, that doesn't matter.
But he talks about them and specifically some of the things that like psychologically that they wrote. Like he makes a big deal about the manifesto and how people should go back and read his manifesto because it's probably one of the more potent pieces of, I think it was Dylan Klebold.
Yeah, I think
and Eric Harris.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I think that's their names. Yeah.
And
sounds familiar.
They said, I think it was Dylan Klebold's diary where he talks about them.
Yeah.
Like about like killing them and like what he's going to do to them. And he's like, you see very similar writing in like, high ranking Nazi officials and like how they talk about them. They're not people.
Yeah. They're not the people. Yeah. You grew up in how far from Littleton were you? Do you know?
I mean, there's so many high schools in that kind of suburban area. Yeah, but they were part of Littleton School District. They weren't far. We had teachers come. We would play them they were like in our conference.
Okay.
They weren't far. In the scope of things, my former sister-in-law went to a rival high school in the same district.
Okay.
King Carl. She would have gone, could have gone to Columbine as well, I guess, depending on where they lived.
Just the idea of like, like I said, just some of those things shaped us. I was out of high school at that point, but it definitely shaped our lives of like, knowing that what they actually like, they're how to get to that level of like you said, like they don't see people as people,
right.
They're turned off from that kind of a thing. And it's funny because like for me because of January, it's men's mental health. Mm-hmm. There's so many times where you're like, man, how did that person get to those places? How did they, what character traits of their life or their genetic code got them to that point, and then you look at your own children sometimes and go, oh my gosh, my kids are My kids are okay. You know, they're crazy as shit, but but our genetic code is okay. Like, we don't have any kind of like glitches in our genetic code.
Right. And what are the signs? Like, what are the signs that kind of stuff is happening? Because I can see a learned pattern of helplessness getting you to a point of depression, right? Sure.
They talk a little bit about, I guess the Dylan kid. He was like a follower. He didn't have very many friends, and and that Eric Harris kid, you know, was looking for kids to do this with, and just got lucky and found this kid that was all in like him, you know. And you know, I again, like my childhood, there were some things in my childhood that shaped me, you know. You know, it's even funnier is that me and my brother, same dad, but because of my age and our age gap, my brother didn't go through the same things that I went through with my dad. You know, when I was older, you know, but my dad was drinking a lot, and I know why I fight so hard sometimes. You know, it's like when I was a kid, he would have gladiator fights with me and my friends. Him and his buddies would get drunk, you know, and then he would have me and my friends fight. Shit. You know, I was probably like 5-6 years old when that's the first time I can remember fighting. Yeah. You know,
when your father is your superhero.
Yeah, and he's like, you should fight, and it's like, okay. And I remember one time I fought this kid. I say fight, but it wasn't even like, I just kicked the shit out of him. He was my friend, but my dad and his buddy got drunk, and I remember me and him fighting, and this kid was so afraid. He was so afraid he scratched me really bad on my face as we were fighting. And I remember thinking, this is not fun. You know, and I was young, you know, and for the longest time, my dad would be like, no, you fight, you fight, you be the first one to punch, you be the first person to do that kind of a thing, you know. And those character traits, like I still sometimes, like, you know, I fight to the death sometimes, you know, with that, and I think that little tiny trait, you know. It was something that I had to like really fight to not do to my own boys. Sometimes people would be like, hey, whoa, you're being a little rough on your boys. And I'm thinking, you don't even know what rough is.
You have no idea, yeah.
I mean, the way that I grew up, this is pretty soft compared to the way that I grew up. You know?
Sounds intense.
It was crazy. Like, when I tell you, like, it would be like in a room like this, and his friends would be sitting around, and me and a kid would be fighting. Sometimes it wasn't even a kid that I knew. Just some kid that they'd find, and I'd fight that kid. And I was young, like I said. I was probably like, you know, my dad, maybe like from 5, 6, 7, 8. I remember in the playground fighting. It kind of shaped my life. Like when I was in 7th grade, this is even crazier. When I was in 7th grade, we had gladiator fights in the bathrooms, and you'd go to school and they'd say, hey, Danny, it's your day today. Make sure you go to the bathroom at like this time. And you'd go in there, and
whoever else is in there,
there'd be a fight. And one day it was one of my really, really, really good friends, and I had a hard time fighting him, but he didn't. And that kind of caught me off guard because we were really good friends. But yeah, it was my day to fight, and I fought in the bathroom.
That's crazy.
Then later on, my cousins and I, we grew up together. Same thing. Like we fought. We would go into the bathroom and just pick a random kid, and one of my cousins would fight him for just like no reason. And sometimes, man, those kids would be, you know, you'd get like I'd get this feeling of like guilt because those kids did not want to fight.
Yeah,
you know, and they're in there crying and stuff, and my cousins are, you know, kicking the shit out of this kid, and I had to fight really hard not to have those same tendencies with my boys.
So back up a second, because I think we've all probably experienced this, but do you recall specific behavior from when you were a child that your dad would do and you'd be like, I'm never doing that?
Yeah.
And then waking up someday as an adult, or like stopping yourself mid behavior as an adult, and you're like, shit, that's the same thing my dad did
Well, I think I told you this. My dad is named. We have the same. We go through the same thing, right? Your dad's name is Douglas, and my dad's name is Danny.
Yeah, yeah.
And they call my dad Big Danny. And they call me Little Danny.
Okay.
And there's times when I'll say something, and I'll be like, "Oh my god, I sound just like my dad."
Yeah.
And I'll do something. I'll say or do something, and my brothers and sisters will be like, "Oh my god, you sound and look just like dad." And I'll be like, "The fuck? Do not say that about me."
I wonder, right? Like, because I know plenty of men and humans in general that have like being like their dad is not necessarily a bad thing.
I know.
And I wouldn't say that being like my father is necessarily a bad thing. He's made a lot of poor decisions. He's had to own them.
Yeah.
And I've been very blessed to learn via negativa. Sure. Like by watching him, he's filled in a lot of blanks for myself.
Yeah.
And I think I've gone through a significant period of time where, I didn't want to be like that. Yeah. I don't want to be like that. I don't think he wanted to be like that.
Yeah.
But I always tell my children, and I think this is true for my father, that like, I mean, he only could give me what he had. It's at his level of education.
Yeah.
And a lot of that is broken or stuck in a very childhood state. And so I've had to like tell my children, like my ceiling is your floor.
Right.
Like you are going to take off from wherever I'm at. You're going to inherit these traits no matter what, whether you like them or not. Like there's going to be some learned behavior. We've spent enough time together. Some bad habit or good habit's going to sneak through.
Right.
Excuse me. I got the hiccups, man. I have been on and off pills, and like I started back on one of them that gives me the worst heartburn.
Oh no.
I'm so over
it. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that quite a bit. What I take away from my childhood, like traits that I don't necessarily like about myself, I've noticed this week, writing shit down. I've gotten out of the habit of writing shit down, so I'm missing stuff.
Oh.
I damn near missed a wedding today.
Yeah.
I completely forgot. I missed men's group. You sent out the text messages. And like, it was like, when did I realize? Probably when you texted me on Saturday, I was like, oh shit, I spaced it. There was no reason that I could not make it other than the fact I just forgot to write it down and I didn't go.
Right.
And that's just a bad habit that I got as a kid. I learned it in school. And so I wouldn't say that any of these traits that I've picked up are necessarily directly correlated to my parents, but I would say that they may be correlated to the situation as a whole. Sure. Like the fact that I'm a bad student, the fact that I feel like I'm stuck in kind of some fight or flight, the fact that I don't really trust very easy. It takes a long time to get in.
Sure.
Even wanting a bigger family. Like I came from a very broken home. I was always jealous of the families that had, big family gatherings.
Right.
Those I think are things that have held me back for sure as an adult. And I've had to work really hard to kind of overcome some of that behavior.
Yeah. And as men, we talk about this a lot, and I know people know this, like you're not given tools to deal with some of the baggage bullshit that you bring to the table, right? It really does, really does boil down to, are you willing to address some of these things that you're just given?
Right.
Like you don't have a choice. Like you're just given these things. Like we talked about, like you say something or you do something, you're like, fuck, I sound just like my dad, or I sound, there's lots of things that I would, man, if you said, man, you sound like your dad, it would ruin my day.
Yeah.
It would ruin my day. It would ruin me.
Yeah.
And back in the day, maybe 10, 15 years ago, it was everything I could do to not be a single ounce like my dad. And if something came through, man, I would be bummed I would be, heartbroken.
Yeah.
If Misty and them sometimes said, God, you sound like your dad, I'd be like, I'd be heartbroken, because I have so many bad and negative connotations about my dad, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's like some times when I'm like, oh, I'll remember something. And I'll be like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And it will be with my dad. It would be like a really cool experience with my dad, you know?
Yeah.
One thing that, you know, my dad and I never tell each other that we love each other. Never.
Yeah.
It would never. Like, you know, if I tell my dad I love him, it tastes weird, you know, but my boys and I, every day, all day, 100 times a day, I will tell my kids that I love them.
Yeah.
Because it's something that I think, like, I long for. Because I tell you, I get a like gross feeling if my dad and I say I love each other. It's the weirdest thing.
It'd be one of those weird, awkward moments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hugging or anything like that. Like, you know, I mean, I don't remember the last time.
Yeah.
I don't see my dad very often.
You don't.
You know. But my boys and I, like, we hug all the time. You know, we talk all the time, and it really was a valid point. And I think some of those traits, like some of those things, you can, right? Like you said, there's holes, you know, in your story, and you're like, I can fill that hole. And there's other times you're just like, man, it's just part of who I am, you know?
Yeah, I think Carl Jung, the early psychologist, called it your shadow work, right? Like there's a lot of these personality traits. There's a lot of these subconscious behaviors we don't outrightly see.
Sure.
Because we've grown up with them, right? We become kind of face blind to them. I think one of the greatest invitations I ever got from a former partner was the opportunity to kind of look at my shadow and like just accept it, accept that it's there.
Yeah.
Acknowledge that it's there. And it at first it felt really, really uncomfortable because I'm having to admit that I'm flawed.
Sure.
And my ego doesn't want to be flawed.
Yeah.
I want to be perfect.
Yeah.
Right. And so this person invites me to do it, even though the fact they can't do it themselves.
Yeah.
Right. You now gain this accountability to self-awareness.
Sure.
Just to pay attention and just pause for a moment and say, what did I just do? How did I behave?
Right.
Is it how I want to be represented?
Yeah.
Is there a repeating pattern here that I need to change?
Sure. Yeah. And assessment in that instance, right? Assessment is really a journey in itself, right? Because like, again, like, you know, to do the work, like we talk about, to do the work requires constant assessment.
It requires you to really get uncomfortable.
For sure.
You're going to walk through some hell.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
There's no way not to.
Yeah.
You can rebrand it and you can say, this is a nice sauna day.
Yeah.
Here in hell. I'm learning and I can be grateful for this wisdom. And I think it helps you move through it. And you're right. There are some traits where you won't change it. But being aware of it, being aware of the triggers, being aware of, is it positive or negative, allows you to address it.
Sure.
But yeah, you have to have that really kind of uncomfortable conversation with yourself. And you have to be in a spot where you can say, yeah, it's me. I screwed up. It's on me. What can I do better?
Yeah.
What is this? What if this is learned behavior? What if this is, something new I've picked up along the way? Yeah.
I think for myself, even sometimes, like, I'm so trapped in self-preservation or self-protection,
Mm-hmm.
Which is probably why I don't apologize very well, because I'm in self-protection and self-preservation, right? I'm like only worried about like my personal feelings and you seeing me as weak. Yeah. Which again comes back to this, like, to trying to prove myself sometimes when I was younger, that I was not weak, to my father, to my dad.
Yeah.
Again, like I said, my little brother, we'll talk about these things. My brother and I will talk about these things, and he'll be like, your childhood was so different than mine, And my brother is very strong, he's very tough. Mm-hmm. But and it's like, he didn't go through the same things as me, but there's some times where there's like our traits will like line up, and it'll be like, and it'll be like, how the hell does he feel that way? He doesn't.
Yeah.
But it's some trait, it's some genetic line where you're like, oh, we just linked up.
Right. So you could even say something like, who's the tougher fighter, Nick or Nate Diaz?
Yeah. You don't know?
I mean,
yeah.
They're both going to tune me up. I'll tell you that much. Yeah. I know that much. If I crossed them wrong,
they're both crazy as shit.
They're both crazy as shit. Who's the top? They probably have a lot of the same paths, but I bet one of them is going to be that
standout,
that brother that doesn't feel any remorse for tuning the guy up in the bathroom. Right. Whereas the other may. There's going to be some variance there. Yeah. For the most part, they're pretty badass. I couldn't tell you personally who it is, who's tougher, right? Yeah. Like I couldn't. I'll let them figure that out. And they can let me know what I should say.
Yeah. There's also like this, sometimes you get these longings, like I just was saying, like longings to, and jealousy sometimes rears its head if you see something, like, you're like, man, I wish I had that. I wish I could be like that.
Yeah.
I wish I could, have some of these traits of like, because sometimes like I'm so lost in like emotions and like willing to fight to the death, that I forget to be kind, And if you see somebody be kind, you're like, oh man, I could have done that. But why didn't I? Why didn't I like be nice to that person?
Yeah.
Why did I have to be an asshole in that moment?
Right.
And I wonder sometimes if men who can't look inward or can't figure that out, if that's where the glitch starts to happen, and then they just start to like resonate, and then they just start to self-sabotage, and the next thing they know, they're down this deep dark hole, and there's no coming out of it.
I'm with you, except for I'm going to twist it on its ear a little bit and say there is probably a class of people where it never crosses that they think they are God's gift.
Yeah, you're right.
They are completely to their core sociopathic or narcissistic.
Yeah.
They've done nothing wrong. They never will do anything wrong. Yeah. They will certainly point out your flaws.
Yeah.
They will certainly call you out on your flaws, but they will never address theirs. They don't have any.
And man, imagine doing that to the wrong guy who already's beating himself up. Mm-hmm. Again, like I said, I'm, in my mind, I sometimes think like,
excuse me,
poor guys, like some guys, like we have friends where you're like, gosh, man, like you just want to give that guy a hug, on a regular basis and be like, bro, you are fine, man. Like you are so okay.
Yeah.
You are so good.
Yeah.
And like you said, when like on weeks when you're like in the shit and you can't even give yourself a hug, how are you, you're pseudo selfing that whole week to try to, just to try to get by.
Well, yeah. And I think you're absolutely right. I think I benefited from, and I'm not saying this is the answer for everybody, but I definitely benefited from my own therapy, where my own therapist was like, write down a list and start with 10 things you can do that you would consider self-care, and fall back on that list when you're feeling crappy, right? If you're feeling crappy and your list has, go for a walk, you go for a walk.
Sure.
Or whatever it is. And so you start to understand and you start to see, what are my triggers? What are the triggers? And when I start recognizing those triggers, what do I put in place? It's it's practice those things until they become muscle memory.
Right.
That's the work we're asking people to do, right? You probably have a protocol at work. Somebody's coming in at the wrong altitude and they're at a certain distance from the airport. What do? Right? There's a protocol, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Right? You reroute them and they've got to get back in the queue or whatever.
Right.
Right. And it becomes muscle memory. You just tell them, they know, shit, whatever screwed up, they got to do it over again.
Right.
So start looking at those protocols. What are those protocols? More importantly, start journaling your triggers. And sadly, your triggers likely will be called out by your friends, your closest relationships, your children. They're going to poke on them. They're going to trip on them. They're not going to understand that they're triggers.
Sure.
It may be a pattern of fighting that you see that represents itself in your relationship, but like start noting those things down. Start noting what feelings are going through your body. Start connecting the thought with the somatic, the emotion in your body. Sure. That's why I love breath work.
Right.
It clears out a good breath work instructor gets both the somatic and the mental in one foul swoop. And that's why breath work is better than meditation.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. Cause meditation, you kind of get lost in the thoughts, but then your thoughts could go down. Like you can't sometimes when you're meditating, you can't really control your thoughts because they start to go. Mm-hmm. But with breath work, you can kind of bring yourself back to the middle again and be like, all right, I'm just going to focus on my breath. I'm not going to focus on the bullshit that's going on in my head. No, you're right. And also like, opening up and talking about things helps. It does help. Like, like therapy is just another way of like opening up and talking to a person that may not have a vested interest. Right. Cause sometimes like, let's say like you're my good buddy and I'm in a moment and I'm grumpy and irritated. You're like, no, Danny, you're great. But you're not calling me out on my bullshit of what, a therapist is like, hey man, this is where you need to be a little bit better. Cause they're not a cheerleader. They're just there to kind of help you and guide you in that moment. Right. Finding positive influences around to keep around you.
Oh yeah.
Somebody that tells you how great you are all the time and doesn't tell you you kind of got this irritated, this thing that you need to work on. Yeah. Maybe just a cheerleader,
Yeah.
And
excuse me, man.
I also think that like understanding your job or the role that you need at that day or that time, right? Working on those things that you suck at. I've been really working on trying to apologize a little bit better to people, and not having any idea of what you should do or how you should feel with my apology. Just apologizing and being okay with just apologizing, and those moments are really hard. Yeah. Especially for somebody like me, like who doesn't apologize at all. Yeah. I apologize to Misty and the boys,
Sure.
But for the most part, like, man, I have to practice them because they don't come naturally to me, Right. I think what some of it is I just think we'll both get over it.
Yeah.
Even if I say some fucked up things to you, I'll be like, we'll eventually both get over it, know? And sometimes I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if like people get over it or if they just are like, I'll deal with Danny, but fuck Danny.
I mean, maybe that is getting over it, right? Like,
I'm kind of putting my own personal context of like, I want you to forgive me. Please forgive me. Instead of just being like, maybe that you did get over it.
Yeah. Maybe they did get over it and you're not talking to those people anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, I wear the same thing about me too. I always think I'm funnier in my head than oftentimes the shit that comes out of my mouth. Yeah. And so I'll tell things that I'm like, I was really funny in my head, but kind of be offensive or crass.
I should have said that. I should have kept that in my mouth. I should have kept it there.
Yeah. I can't believe my inside voice got out again. Sorry, everybody.
Yeah. That's funny.
But I'm the same way as well, right? Like, I think intrinsically I want people to like me. Yeah. It's caused me to prostitute myself and sign up for things I don't often do, or want to do, or hang on to relationships probably longer than I should.
Sure.
But I think we're all in this journey, right? We're on this journey and it lasts our whole lifetime. However long we're granted. Some of us are granted longer than others.
Sure.
Life is meant for joy. I truly believe life is meant for joy. It's not all about being on this constant trudge of self improvement. While like it's good, you got to spend some time to stop and smell the roses. Thank you, Ferris Bueller.
Yeah.
You've got to take some time to just say, you know what? I'm doing better today than I was yesterday.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you are constantly telling me to be kind to myself.
Yeah.
And I think it's true. You really do need to be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
And if you're not 100% all the time, it's okay. It's okay to have a cheat day.
Yeah.
It's okay to start over.
Yeah.
It's okay to backslide and figure out. Man, I feel like so much of my life recently has been I'm back to where I was 3 years ago.
Right.
You know, so I'm working on being kind to myself. I'm working on new things. I am really just trying to push out gratitude and a little bit of self-control. So that inside voice doesn't come out.
Yeah.
But gratitude for sure. It always seems to be the right soil, the right mixture to get me through.
Yeah.
To get me through things.
Yeah. Seeing like you said, seeing the world for what it really is.
Yeah.
And being grateful.
Yeah.
For what we have, right? Especially like I said, man, we live in Utah, bro.
Right.
It is like, dude, an 85-degree day in Utah.
Yeah.
No clouds. I don't know if there's much out there that you're like, dude, could it get any better?
You took me on that run, and I did end up sleeping the rest of the day.
Oh, that's right.
But the run was like the whole time. Danny's like, this is gorgeous. And I'm like, yes, I'm just looking at my shoes so I can get the next step. But there was not a single moment on that mountain where we weren't completely surrounded by
just happiness.
Even the people. I kind of like, I don't know what's going on. It's like dry. I kind of got to sneeze.
Your nose was making a weird, it was starting to do the
there's one loading up in the chamber. We'll save the people from that though.
And that's kind of like, you know, the whole idea of acceptance of who you are, right? Accepting who you are. Cause like, I do accept who I am. I do accept the fact that sometimes my emotions get the best of me. And I was talking to Mike about this yesterday that like, you know, people know when I'm in a little bit of a mood, right? I don't mask those very well, but I also don't let myself off the hook sometimes in that moment, right?
Yeah.
Like, man, if I'm grumpy, my kids know. If I'm grumpy, my wife knows. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not the best of like acknowledging those things in that moment. But going forward, you know, I try to just remember that like some of those genetic code things, man, like you got to be so grateful and so appreciative of, because I think that it shapes who I am, you know. I am grateful for my dad, you know. I am grateful for my dad. I know that sometimes it may seem like I'm like, you know, talking down about my dad. I am grateful for him. I'm grateful for the things that like I have, for the traits that I have, you know, for the fact that my last name is Okanya, because you know, I wear that like a badge of honor. You know. And then there's things that you, like you said, just those things that I'm like, I don't really want to be like that. So it's a hole I got to fill, you know. But I acknowledge it. Some days it's there, and
sometimes it's the best you can do, right? Like we do as sons, we put our fathers on a pedestal. We put our fathers on a pedestal, even if they're, man, how many kids, like the old trope, the Simpsons trope, there's Nelson Muntz, who's like the bully kid in the Simpsons, right? He's the ha-ha, right? He's always waiting like for his father to come back, right? Like it does not matter. Like we are infinitely forgiving as sons to our fathers. Like, we want a relationship. We're desperate for that male relationship in our lives. And, you know, we get what we get at the time. And hopefully we're able to metastasize that getting into wisdom, whether it's good or whether it's bad. As long as we turn it into wisdom, you know, that means we have a stronger understanding of who we are. And that's what we're going for, right? A stronger understanding of what we're going for.
Yeah. What you got coming up? You said you're going to Colorado.
I am. I'm literally thinking I'm going to get in the car now. This thing comes up tomorrow, and I'm a little bit hesitant. I'm a little bit hesitant to go, but I got to get out there for Saturday by 7:30
What's going on?
In the morning. I'm going to tap out the tap out cancer jiu-jitsu tournament.
That's it.
That's it. I was going to go hang out with my nephews there in Mexico, so part of it is just giving myself the experience of doing something.
You're volunteering at the Tap Out for Cancer.
I'm volunteering to run a table at Tap Out for Cancer.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
what is it called? Tap Out Cancer?
Yeah, whatever.
Tap Out Cancer, right?
Tap. Yeah.
Tap Out Cancer.
It's whatever Craig Jones got himself involved in.
Yeah. He gets himself into some fucked up things.
Yeah. Well, he was their biggest donor last year.
Really?
Yeah.
So where's it at? In Denver?
It's in Denver. It's right where I grew up in my old stomping grounds.
Wow. So you got to be, what time is the tournament start?
Tournament starts at 8. I got to be there at 7:30. I know.
Dang. And then are you hauling ass back on Sunday?
I think I'm going to, depending on when the tournament gets over, I'm probably just going to hit the road after the tournament.
No way.
That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Wow.
Leave. I want to leave tomorrow during the day because I wanted to stop in like Strawberry.
Oh.
Or not Strawberry, excuse me. I wanted to stop in Steamboat. Go out past Strawberry.
Okay.
Stop in Steamboat. I can work from anywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
I did a really good job working from the hospital. I'd like to maybe do that from...
Is this your last week? Do you start
the
everything
23rd.
back up?
So I have one more week after this.
One more week.
Yeah. So that's the other reason I'm going.
Okay.
I'm not tethered to anything. I haven't had kids in 3 weeks, just the way things have shaken out.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, I might as well at least get out of here for a weekend.
Oh, cool.
So
that'd be cool.
Part of it was like, Colorado's safe. I know people. There's people out there that wanted to travel to Utah for while I was in the hospital that didn't get to see me. So.
And the boys are in Mexico.
Boys are in Cancun right now.
What the heck?
I know. I told them I'm driving out there to fart on their pillow. I said, I'm going to fart on your pillow.
Yeah, good. They deserve that.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. And that'll be fun.
Yeah. And then I'm hoping to get back I'll get right back into it. Will be camp time.
Yeah.
What about you? What about you got going on? You got camp a little bit?
Yeah, we got sponsorship stuff. Still working on sponsorship. Still working on trying to get the fights, all the fight fees covered for the fighters. I got a couple of things couple of avenues that I'm working on. A couple of Vivint, really trying to get Vivint to donate to the cause. A couple of the business guys working on. Yeah, that honestly, we're just working hard. You know, Misty and I both are working hard, really, really, really working hard.
Yeah.
I did talk to my union guy. As of now, I'm going to stay another year.
Okay.
In the FAA, stay one more year. My plan was to retire in May of next year. That was my financial plan. That was the goal, was to get through this winter and then retire in May. If that's the case, I'll just work another year. I'll just work till December and then make a decision then. Right now, I feel like that, we're going to stay anyway. So yeah. Stick it out. And then we have...
I keep waiting for that day. Danny's going to come down here. Oh, yeah, I retired.
Yeah, today's the day.
I'm retired.
I know. I had some up and down days of like, what would my life look like retired?
Yeah.
If I'm going to work, I might as well go down and do air traffic control.
What you know best, yeah.
I might as well stick with that. I've talked to a couple people and their ideas, they work till they're working until they're 65. They were so stoked to think that I could work till I'm 57, thinking that holy shit. Most people have to work till they're 65,
yeah,
till they retire.
10 years.
And here I am at 47 talking about retirement,
Yeah.
And so, I talked to Corey today. That guy. We're going to FaceTime the next time because, he's on his boat now.
Yeah.
And, it's really cool what he's doing. But he also said, I can't believe I'm giving up what I gave up, which is, the academies.
Yeah.
His comfortable lifestyle,
Yeah.
He's over in Florida right now, going to different academies, trying to find something that resembles what we have, and there's nothing. There's nothing that he has, and so that would be scary to me.
Yeah,
I don't have the academy. I don't have anything to look forward to. I think I'm going to compete on July 12th. I'm technically, I just got to pay for it, but I think I made the decision to compete on July 12th for Grappling Industries. Trip's going to compete.
Nice.
I know a couple of the guys are thinking about doing it. I think I'm going to compete. I think it's time. I think.
I mean, you haven't competed since we last competed together.
Yeah.
And I'm not in competing shape personally, but I remember leaving that being like, I'm not competing again until I change some things about who I am. So
I feel good. I feel like I'm ready for that. I feel like it's time, to get back out there and put myself back out there. And so, that's really, it's really, we're kind of in a little small of a groove, like a little bit of a little lull, because we're just working hard and trying to keep enjoying the days that Misty and I can have the whole day with each other. And I had a pretty good men's group on Friday. I'll tell you offline what it was like.
So bummed.
It was really good. Actually, I keep telling you this, that God works in mysterious ways.
Yeah. And
in my mind, the way that it worked out was God had a hand in how it worked out. And when I tell you, it's not that I don't want to tell you people online. It's just not my story to tell. But when I tell you, you'll be like, oh, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, because what happens in men's group stays in men's group unless you've got the secret men's group handshake, which I got. Yeah. I think that's part of what makes it the safe space to go work in. And so that's cool. I'm excited. I definitely have some FOMO. I can't even fathom. My brain, I just spaced it. I was looking forward to it. And then next thing I know, it was Saturday evening, and I'm like, what?
And I was texting you to come over for the fights.
Yeah. And I was just a complete mess. Anyways, I think we wrap it there, man. I appreciate you.
It was fun.
I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I missed men's group. I'm so grateful that you've put that on. If people are interested, how would they, are you opening it up?
No. So right now it's just invite only from the men in the group. Right now, because of some of the things that are going on in the men's group.
Yeah.
It's best if we just, we have right now just keeping it to, if you get an invite from, if you want to invite somebody,
sure,
that person is more than welcome to come along to men's group. We have sponsorships available for the super fights for the camp. I'd love to work with the community. I'd love to get out there and talk and put your name out there, put your business out there. Yeah, man. Yeah, it's great.
Cool.
It's a great time right now.
It's too fun to be inside recording a podcast. Let's get out there and live the summer.
Let's do it.
All right.
Okay.
Appreciate you. Hey, we'll see you next episode.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Rise up, no turning back.